Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will discuss how to switch between JPA and Hibernate. Suppose we are using Entity Manager Factory of JPA. So all these APIs of JPA we can access through Entity Manager Factory. But think about it, you want to access an API that is only present in Hibernate, but that API is not there in JPA. So in that case, how you are going to use that API from Entity Manager Factory? So for now, we have to understand that JPA means Entity Manager Factory. From there, we are accessing all the APIs provided by the JPA, and Session Factory that is provided by the Hibernate, and all these APIs, all the native APIs that is present in Hibernate, we can access through Session Factory. So you can see the diagram here. So here we have Entity Manager Factory, and this side we have Session Factory. So while using JPA, you are going to use an API of Session Factory, and that API very specific to the native Hibernate that is not there in JPA. So in that case, JPA has provided a specification that if somebody wants to use the internal API of an provider like Hibernate, we can use that API through the unwrap method. So how we are going to use this unwrap method? We will use this unwrap method in Entity Manager Factory object to get the Session Factory. And this can happen vice versa. So we can get the Entity Manager Factory from Session Factory as well. So both this Entity Manager Factory and Session Factory can use this unwrap method to get one another's object. So how we are going to access those APIs? Let's see, we'll have an example. We'll write an example and we'll see. So I have created a simple application switching between JP and Hibernate. Here I have a simple entity that is a message entity, and I have two things here. One is ID, the another one is text. So what I'm going to do is I will store a text message into the database, and I will retrieve the same text message from the database. So the first requirement is I will have a entity manager factory. From entity manager factory, I will save an message to the database. But while retrieving, I will use session factory to retrieve this message from database. So while storing, I'm using JPA entity manager factory. While retrieving, I'm going to use session factory to retrieve the message from the database. So I will write a test class. Since I will be using Spring here, so I have created a Spring configuration file here. So here I have configured the data source and the transaction manager. So whatever the basic requirement for Spring data configuration, so those I have configured. The entity manager factory I have created here. So those things I have already I have configured. So here I have this username and password to for the database connection. All those things are here. So this is very common. So now let's move to write an example. So I will write a test case here. So I will write something like this. Test switch between JPA and Hibernate. So I will add the Spring capability to this one. Extend with the class, and I will add the context configuration here. So here I will Spring data configuration. This is the same class I have provided here, whatever I have created here. Spring data configuration. This one I have created. The same I have provided here in context configuration. So now let's write the logic to store and retrieve data to and from the database. So first I will write public void test switch from JPA to Hibernate. Okay. So before that, I will inject the entity manager factory. entity manager factory. Here I have injected, I will do auto wire. Okay, so now entity manager dot create entity manager. So this is an entity manager. Okay, entity manager dot get transaction get begin. So after that I will create the instance of message. I will store the ID as 1L, which is long, and set text. I will text save as hello 1. Okay, then I will do entity manager dot persist message. So basically this will persist the message instance into the database. Okay, so what I will do next is I will commit those entity manager get transaction bit commit. So far we have saved the message into the database. So that message has ID as 1 and text as hello 1. Now what we will do, we'll try to retrieve that particular message from the database using Hibernate provided API. So as I told you before that, in those kind of scenario where you need a specific API of your underlying implementation, that is Hibernate. So in those scenario, you can use this unwrap method to access those APIs. So here we will use this unwrap method to use the particular API that is provided by the Hibernate, not by the JPA specification. So let's do that. So we will retrieve the session factory from the entity manager factory. So entity manager factory dot unwrap session factory dot class. So this is how you will get the session factory. Now session factory dot open session session dot create native query select text from message. Okay, so here we will write get result list and get index 0 dot out. So we are just printing the message whatever we have saved in the database, that is hello 1. Okay, using this session factory. Okay, let's run this example. So if you see here, so we have printed this message hello 1. So this is all about how to use this unwrap method that is provided by the specification, JPA specification. And we can use alternatively that we can also retrieve the session factory, sorry, the entity manager factory from the session factory. That also you can try. But that kind of situation you may not face in real world scenario. So that is all about this example.